Hello everyone, welcome to the new video. I'm really glad to have you here today. My experience happened one night in May 2001. At that time, I was living in the state of North Carolina in America. It was around 2 in the morning when I went to the bathroom, but I suddenly passed out there. I immediately found myself suspended near the ceiling of the living room near the door. My husband found me lying on the floor and called an ambulance. I could see from above that the emergency personnel entered the house and passed by me and went to my body, which was in the bathroom. Doctors say I was dead for about 14 minutes. I was in the living room observing all these activities from above, but I felt complete peace. I didn't have a leg, but it wasn't surprising to me, and the events that were happening at home didn't scare me. I wasn't worried about who was going to do the housework or pay the bills. 45 minutes later, they carried my body out of the house on a stretcher. I was looking at my lifeless body on the stretcher, but I no longer had any attachment to that body. It could have been someone else's body, and it felt the same to me. Everyone left the house and closed the door behind them. This is where things got weird. Although no one was at home, the front door opened and several dark blue orbs entered and came towards me. They knew where I was and hovered around me, watching only me. They were obviously related because they never bumped into each other, and I knew they were related. It was like electricity was coming out of them like an energy. At the center of this brilliant blue was a pure white color. I was not afraid of them, and they didn't seem hostile or evil. Suddenly, all of them left the main door of the house and the door was closed. Then, someone gently tapped me on the shoulder. This was someone I now know is always with me. He said, "I have to go." I thought to myself, where should I go? It didn't take more than a few seconds for everything to go dark. Although I felt no movement, I opened my eyes and saw that I was in a vast meadow full of flowers. It was like the slope of a gently sloping hill, and millions of flowers filled the entire space as far as the eye could see. Light was emitted from the edge of the petals of these flowers. I can't describe their colors because they were different from the colors we are familiar with on Earth. On Earth, we can only see 5% of the color spectrum. In the distance, I could see mountains that were 10 times the height of Mount Everest. There I saw thousands of people living in joy and absolutely blossoming in their energy field. As I looked at the flowers under my feet, because now I had feet again, I realized that the flowers knew I was there. They were connected in the space of unity, and they slowly moved away from under my feet so that I couldn't crush them. Although I had no weight and couldn't crush them, they only respected my fling and understood that I still felt like a body, and I thought that maybe the flowers would be crushed under my feet. I understood that in this space everything is united and everything understands everything about everything else. I understood that we become what we think and we create for ourselves what we think. If I wanted to have a straight and long black hair, I would create that hair for myself. If I wanted to be on the top of those mountains, I would be there immediately. If I wanted to climb a mountain, I would immediately be at the foot of the mountain and climbing it. The whole time I was there, the sound of music could be heard. The music was a kind of a hymn and prayer that was repeated and was very relaxing and pleasant. But the sound of music didn't come from any particular place, but it came from everything, even from my own being. But I knew that I could change the music if I wanted to. How wonderful it was! In this space, we create whatever we want. I and the lady who was with me, my guide angel, walked on this paved road that passed through mountains and green valleys and passed by a lake and finally arrived at a very beautiful city. My estimate is that the distance we walked was thousands of kilometers, which on Earth would take a month to walk. Somewhere along the way, while I was walking behind her, I focused a lot on her and suddenly I became her. I turned and looked back to see Linda standing behind me. She was another woman now, but I knew every life she had lived and every lesson she had learned. Also, I understood all the other lives that she had to go through and learn it them. It was an absolute understanding of the position of each individual soul. Everything there was made of energy, even the buildings which were very tall and stretched to the sky, and even the clay and bricks of the buildings. We entered a building. Even though the building was tall, it didn't have an elevator because it wasn't needed. Of course, there was a staircase in it for those who wanted to go to the floors one by one, and maybe for beauty. Otherwise, I could think of, for example, the 12th floor and be there immediately. I estimate that the time I spent there was equivalent to a year and a half on Earth. Then again someone gently tapped me on the shoulder and I felt a female presence that I thought was the one that was accompanying me for. Now I found myself at the entrance of a very magnificent church, hundreds of meters high. We entered the church and as I walked down the aisle, just like the churches on earth, there were benches on both sides of the aisle, each approximately 10 meters long and made of one piece of wood. The floor of the church was also wooden, but it had a shape like a sandstone, and each piece of wooden mosaic on the floor had an area of several tens of square meters. I was walking in the corridor of the church and I was lost in its beauty, especially the stained glass windows, which were very big and had a dazzling shine. I reached the front of the church. There were 3 people standing there. They were not physical beings, but of energy. Also, energy rotates around them, from left to right and from right to left. Also, the energy rose from the ground like a waterfall and flowed over them. I was standing in front of them. They showed me a box from which energy was emitted. One of them said that they are not there to judge me. I immediately knew I had to open the box and process all the memories inside. I opened the box and looked inside. There was no floor or wall inside this box. It seemed endless inside, and I could see thousands and thousands of tiny bubbles of energy suspended in it. Each of them was a small film about one of the memories of my life, or rather, one of my actions in the world. I knew I had to take these bubbles out one by one and process the memory and energy inside each one. Inside each bubble was like a TV screen. For example, one of them was about when I was a young child and I had pulled the tail of my grandmother's cat very hard. First, I saw the whole scene again from the third person point of view, as if it had nothing to do with me. I saw what this little girl did to this cat. Then I became myself again when I was younger. I could hear Linda's heartbeat again and feel all her thoughts and feelings as if they were my own. I could understand her intentions. As she pulled the cat's tail, the cat became very angry and screamed. I thought to myself, why did I do this when I was a child? Now I was reviewing these memories again from the perspective of young Linda and analyzing all her reasons and motivations. And I had to become that cat myself and experience everything from his point of view. I could feel my forelegs and tail and ears and the rest of my body. I could hear a lizard walking on the ground. My vision had changed, and now I saw everything like a cat. Someone was close to me, and I was very scared because she was holding my tail in her hand. When she pulled my tail, a sharp pain shot through my entire back and spine. I started hissing angrily and pulled out my claws. I found myself outside this bubble again, looking at it and the movie scenes inside it. It was there that I started to cry, and the tears fell from my eyes and fell on the ground. I knew that my crying wasn't for others to see, but for me to understand what I did with that cat. The pain was tenfold. I was sitting and holding my face in my hands and crying hard. I thought to myself, after all, I was a child and I didn't know the results and the effects of my actions. I didn't know that our every action spreads like a wave in the world. I didn't know that these cats played a key role in this memory, and I needed to heal that pain and say I'm sorry and ask for forgiveness for myself. For what I did to, I cried. The cat was not there for me to apologize to. The only person who ultimately judged me was myself. The only person I had to forgive in the end was myself. And at the time the bubble in my hand disappeared, its energy had disappeared. I knew I had to get up and go to the box and pull out another bubble and process and heal its memory until the box was empty. Some of my memories were good. For example, when I smiled at a stranger. This made me very excited because I could see how I had made that person happy, and the reward was tenfold. Again, tears flowed from my eyes from the intensity of joy. There were also memories that I didn't want to go to and take care of them at all. But I knew that I had to face my finishes until the box was empty. But despite all the pain, it was a very beautiful process. It is beautiful when we can heal the wounds we have caused in ourselves and others. When we forgive, we discover love. Healing brings love. I pulled several thousand memories out of that box and dealt with it. My estimate is that I spent about a year and a half all the time there reviewing my deeds and taking care of my memories. When the review of my life was over, I felt someone tap me on the shoulder again, and I opened my eyes and found myself in a completely different place. This was a white room without walls, ceilings, and windows. I looked down, and I could see my feet, but the room had no floor and nothing under my feet. As far as the eye could see, only whiteness could be seen. I saw a woman in the distance coming towards me. As she got closer to me, she got bigger, and when she got closer to me, the first thing she said was, "What are you doing here?" "You shouldn't be here," I thought to myself, who is this woman? So far in this climate, everyone has been very kind to me, but this woman doesn't have a very kind tone. I answered, I don't know where I am and how I should return to where I was. Looking desperate, she said, Linda, my name is Karina. I'm your great grandmother. You shouldn't be here. Then she explained to me in details who she was in the world. She told me her life. Then she started talking about my life from 2001 onwards. She said, you can't stay in America and you must return to the land you came from, Australia, before September. When this experience happened, it was May 2001 and I was living in the state of North Carolina in America. I came back to Australia in June of that year. She said, what year will you give birth to your daughter and other things? Now, I have honest dreams and about a year ago I saw my guardian angel who has with me all my life. About a week later, I started seeing spirits that are guardian angels. Now, I am very happy that I can give others hope, understanding, and trust in the future. Life on earth is hard and is constantly getting harder. And the more we can keep hope alive and realize that we are always accompanied and surrounded by our guardian angels, and the more we can increase the frequency of our soul's vibration with this energy, consciously aligned, and the level of love, we can create a heaven on earth. It all starts with us, and now it is my life goal to make people aware